What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackowitz. This is the Kaged review, and this is going to be the spoiler review for Joker. You may have noticed that I've already posted one. I didn't really like the way it looks. I'm going to re-record this because I just want the best quality that I can get for my channel. So with that being said, Joker. This is a movie that I had been thinking about like at least a couple of days after seeing it. It was very impactful. Amazing direction by Todd Phillips and amazing acting by Joaquin Phoenix. But to tell this and to tell it right, I gotta kind of do it in layers. And the first layer of this story deals with Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck is the guy who becomes Joker. He deals with mental health issues, but he also deals with an affliction where he just kind of laughs sporadically whenever he's nervous or uncomfortable about a situation. This brings a lot of things to the forefront, and we're gonna get to that in a second. So he has mental health issues, he has this affliction, and he also has society kind of fucking with him over this affliction. They're messing with him, sometimes physically assaulting him over the fact that he's laughing at the most inopportune times. And you actually start the show out, you may have seen in the trailer where these kids, they take his sign away, he's sign spinning, and he's chasing after him, runs into an alley where he gets smacked on the face with this sign. They beat his ass pretty bad. In the very next scene, he's crying in his bedroom, but he's also got this affliction where he's laughing. And so he's fighting this laughter at the same point, and you can see his face contorting in some very unique ways. And it's just really disturbing and a little uncomfortable. And that is really the theme of this movie. So the next day, he's at this office where all these guys dress up as clowns and do sign spinning for this company. And he's got his shirt off, and this guy sees all the bruises, and of course they heard about what happened. So one of his co-workers gives him a gun and says, you have to be able to protect yourself. That leads into another situation. Very similar. Now you have three rich guys. They're on a train. They're messing with this woman. And she looks over at Arthur while his condition takes over. It makes him uncomfortable. He starts laughing. They turn their attention to him, and they want to know what the hell is so funny. So they start messing with him, they start beating his ass again. And this is where he gets that gun that was given to him, shoots two of them dead right on the spot. A third guy he hits kind of low, like in the butt or the top of the leg. And he takes off, the train stops and he gets off the train. And Arthur could have let him go, he could have done anything. Instead, he starts actually stalking this guy. He's shot, he's moving slow, Arthur shoots him again. He stops, he's not dead yet, he's on the staircase going up from the subway, and Arthur shoots him like 2 or 3 more times and then takes off because he knows what he did is wrong. So you can kind of see the progression here, like how violence begets violence. So that's the first layer. The second layer of this is this guy who really hasn't had a happy day in his life. He's been pretty much miserable, and he figures that maybe the way to find his happiness is to be able to make other people happy. So he has this dream of becoming a stand-up comic. And there's this guy, Murray, who has, we'll call it the Murray Show. I don't know what the actual name of the show was. But this is somebody that Arthur Fleck idolizes because he's basically the pinnacle of what he wants to do. It's this guy, he's on TV, he's making millions of people laugh every night. And he actually has fantasies about like meeting Murray and being on the show and, you know, delusions of grandeur kind of thing. So in his journey to become a stand-up comedian, he starts going to comedy shows and he'll take notes of what comedians are doing. And it was really, really well done here. It was really smart too, because you would have Arthur Fleck, a guy who is a little askew. He doesn't see the world quite the way everybody else does. And he would laugh at the most inopportune times. Everybody else would be laughing at a joke. He'd be dead quiet. He'd be laughing at stuff that nobody else was laughing at. So it really shows you that there's a disconnect between him and the average person and what we think is funny. So eventually he gets up the nerve to go try to be a stand-up comedian. He goes to a little nightclub. And it starts out very awkwardly because his affliction kicks in. He starts laughing. It's very uncomfortable. And so after he finally gets past his laughing fit, he starts getting a few jokes out, and it's pretty much crickets. It goes nowhere. He absolutely bombs. And so Murray, who runs this TV show, the guy that Arthur idolizes, sees him bomb at a nightclub. And he actually uses that the footage there to kind of poke fun at Arthur. And so apparently they liked that so much that they wanted to invite Arthur onto the Murray show. And one thing about Arthur is, while he is mentally ill, he's not stupid. And so he understood that they were going to bring him on this show to make fun of him. So now we've got the third layer, which is his relationship with his mother, Arthur Fleck. His mother, he lives with her. It's basically the only person in his life that's been a constant, that's been there, that's been nurturing in any way. And really the last connection he has with civilization, really. And so he finds a notebook where it says that she had a relationship with Thomas Wayne. And that relationship made Arthur. Now, if you're paying attention, Thomas Wayne is Bruce Wayne, or Batman's father. So that means that the Joker and Batman are half brothers. And people really didn't know where to go with that. You could tell in other interviews that I've seen and stuff, it was just like the reactions were pretty strong. But if you stick with the movie, you realize Arthur Fleck confronts Thomas Wayne at a theater restroom. And Thomas Wayne tells him, "Your mother worked for me. She was mentally ill herself. She actually adopted you." And one thing I really loved about the fact that they made him adopted is that you still have such an open-ended history with him. You really don't know where he comes from. You really don't know what happened to him during his formative years. So you find out that, and then he tells Arthur, "If you don't believe me, just go check out Arkham." So that's exactly what Arthur does. He goes to Arkham. He actually steals one of the files for his mother, realizes that everything that was told to him is true. His mother is mentally ill. She adopted him. And on top of that, not only did she adopt him, but she let this guy that was with her physically abuse him a lot and actually gave him some kind of brain damage. And so you start to see how all of this actually created Arthur Fleck. And so this is kind of like his breaking point. Like, the only person in his life that's ever really mattered has been lying to him his whole life. And this is where he decides that he's going to go on the Murray show and he's just going to put on a show one last time. And you can see there's this big scene where he's kind of imitating, like, meeting Murray and then shooting himself in the head on live TV. One of the great things about doing this as a piece, as a timepiece in the late 70s, early 80s, is because you didn't have the technology and the experience that we do now. And that's really vital because if you remember, there was a guy that actually did commit suicide on live TV and they saw it. And that's when they created that time delay. Well, that time delay isn't there at this point in time. So really, really smart that they did that. So he finally gets to the Murray show, the day he's supposed to be on. And he's dressed in his full Joker costume. And he comes out on stage, and this is where he says, "Hey, can you introduce me as a Joker?" We've seen that in the previews. He comes out, and he starts opening a journal. And this journal they've kind of showed several times throughout the movie, and there's this one particular phrase that says, "I hope my death makes more sense than my life." And he closes that, and it was kind of at this point that you knew Arthur had changed his mind about what he wanted to do. So, one thing I haven't talked about yet is when Arthur shot the 3 rich guys on the train. Some people really started to use that as a catalyst. There's a major separation between upper and lower class in Gotham City. And people are just pissed off about unemployment and wages, and they're just looking for something to lash out at. And it's a powder keg. And some people have been seen around town wearing Joker makeup or Joker masks and kind of using it as a catalyst. Well, now you have the actual man on live TV on the Murray show in his full Joker makeup. And he starts talking about how Thomas Wayne is one of the bad guys. You know, he's one of the oppressors. And then he turns his attention to Murray and says how Murray's not really a good guy. And how Murray brought him on to the show just to make fun of him. And then everything just suddenly changed very, very quickly. He says, "You know what happens when you bring on a mentally challenged person to make fun of them on your show, you get what you fucking deserve. And he pulls a gun out and shoots Murray in the face. That was a hell of a moment in the movie. Let's be honest. It was definitely something that grabbed you. The audience automatically started reacting. And the next thing you see is Arthur Fleck is in a cop car. They're taking him away. But the city is in chaos. All these people in Joker masks and makeup, they're just rioting and looting and going crazy in the city. And then you see an ambulance slam into the police car and flip it. The one that Arthur's in, two guys in Joker masks, grab Arthur and put him on top of another car. He shakes it off, he comes to, and now he's standing amidst all this chaos with all these people who are now idolizing him because they were looking for a symbol, something to lock onto and lash out with. And I don't think they really understood that he's just mentally ill. He's crazy, but yet he's still now this symbol for them. And so that was kind of the birth of the Joker. And there were some really, really, really great moments through all of this. Joaquin Phoenix losing a lot of weight really helped the role. There were times when he was really angry or frustrated and contorting his body in these really weird ways that were, again, visually disturbing. And the same thing with his facial inflections and things he did with that. The music created some very good moments too. The music definitely built tension in moments. Very good score. So I loved what they did, but I also loved that they were talking about society as a whole and mental illness as a whole. Another big thing about this was there were parts of this movie where they were talking about the government cutting funding for people with mental illnesses and how Arthur was losing his psychiatrist. And that was one of the, things barely keeping him held on to humanity. And it also cut funding for his meds, which were also another thing keeping him stable. And so all this stuff got cut, and now he's still dealing with people as they are, and as they can be very cruel, especially to people who are different, people with afflictions. And you just saw this steamroll effect of how violence begets violence. How, if you beat a dog, eventually it's going to bite you. And that's kind of the scenario here. You keep going at somebody so long, and they keep taking, there's only so much physical abuse somebody can take before they finally lash out. And, dealing with a hard life, some people can deal with it and become strong in character, and other people will become like Joker, like Arthur, And I thought it was very, very, very well done, obviously. During my non-spoiler review, I gave it like a 10 out of 10, and I was debating like 9.5 out of 10, or 10 out of 10, and I don't know why. It's easily a 10 out of 10 now that I look back at it. It's just phenomenal. Some people had a problem with the very end when he was on the Murray Show stage and Arthur Fleck was like suddenly self-aware. I didn't have a problem with that because the reality is people with mental disorders, they're crazy. They're not stupid. In fact, you could have some incredibly intelligent people who are absolutely crazy. So I didn't mind the fact that he was self-aware. I think it was a matter of he just accepted the fact that he was the villain. He accepted the fact that this is what brought him joy, and he wasn't going to hide behind anything anymore. Crazy as that may be, it was acceptance on his part of who he was. So, very, very just amazing movie. It's dark. It deals with some heavy subject matter, but it has got amazing direction, amazing performances, and yeah, I mean, it really, there were times where it really caught you off guard. And actually, before I end, one quick way that it caught you off guard. There is a supposed relationship that's building throughout this film with Arthur Fleck and this girl in his apartment building. He sees her, and she did this, like kind of talking about something wrong with the apartment building. And that motion kind of signaled something in Arthur. And he would have fantasies about her throughout the whole movie. One instance is after he shot the three guys, he knocks on her door, she answers, he walks in and they instantly start making out. The impression is that they're going to have sex. None of it really made sense until the breaking point when he just walks into her apartment when she's not there. She comes in and she's like, "Do I know you?" You know, haven't I seen you down the hallway? And so you realize that everything that was going on between those two was a fantasy in his head. It was just very well done. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of the end of it for me. I was absolutely blown away by Joaquin's performance. It was phenomenal. So let me know what you think. This is the spoiler review, so go ahead and talk about anything you want here. Have fun with it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz, Kaged Nation, out.